What's up, good people? It's Jay. What happens when a cartoon takes a photo of a cartoon? Obviously, you get a cartoon image, right? Okay. Now, the International Swim Station that is 249 miles up in the air is said to be going at 17,000 miles per hour, and that's recorded and photographed in 4K. That's like the highest definition we have now. Daily being recorded. A satellite remains without power nor acceleration. It's standing still. For you people that do not understand, it is just floating in space without speed. And the International Swim Station is going 17,000 miles per hour. Satellites have no speed. And all we get for proof of the satellites are cartoon images. Wow. You know, that woke me up this morning. Man. Wow. Let that sink in.
Now I'm going to discuss how we would look for a new law. In general, we look for a new law by the following process. First, we guess it. Then we well, don't laugh, that's really true. Then we compute the consequences of the guess to see what, if this is right, if this law that we guessed is right, we see what it would imply, and then we compare those computation results to nature, or we say compare to experiment or experience, compare it directly with observation to see if it works. If it disagrees with experiment, it's wrong. In that simple statement is the key to science. It doesn't make a difference how beautiful your guess is. It doesn't make a difference how smart you are who made the guess or what his name is. If it disagrees with experiment, it's wrong. That's all there is to it.
In the early days of the railroad, train rails were made of either cast iron or wrought iron. Cast iron was too brittle and would break easily. Wrought iron was too soft and would wear out too quickly. So steel eventually became and remained the train rail metal of choice. The train wheel's rim runs on the inside of the rail to keep the train on the track. This plant makes train rails entirely out of recycled steel from scrap yards, food cans, and recycled pieces from the rail-making process itself. Electromagnets pick up the scrap and dump it in a charging bucket. A truck hauls the bucket inside, where a crane drops the contents into a furnace. An intense electric current melts the scrap steel at 1650 degrees Celsius. It then flows into a large brick-lined ladle where they add carbon, manganese, and other elements to make the steel more durable. The alloy then runs down a ceramic tube that shields it from exposure to oxygen, which would ruin the metal. From there, the molten metal flows into molds which extrude it into continuous rectangular blocks called blooms. Acetylene torches cut each bloom into 3.5-meter lengths. A crane then transfers the blooms to a furnace, which, over the next 5 to 7 hours, reheats them to 1250 degrees Celsius. This softens the steel for further shaping. Then the reheated blooms enter a machine called a rolling mill, which elongates each bloom more than quadrupling its length. A shear then slices the longer, thinner blooms into 4 pieces. The pieces now go into another furnace for reheating. This preps them for the next set of rolling mills, which will gradually form them to the final rail shape. Different railroads used to use different shaped rails, which required changing the train's wheels when passing from one railway to another. By the turn of the 20th century, the T-shaped rail became the industry standard and remains so today. For the final shaping, each steel rail passes several times through 3 consecutive mills. This is what a mill's rollers look like. And here's the standard T-shape to which they form the steel. Next, a saw slices off about 30 centimeters to square off the ends. The cut-off pieces go back to the scrapyard. Meanwhile, the rails are laid out until they cool to about 500 degrees Celsius. Then an electromagnet piles them in a holding box, where they sit for 10 hours until they cool to about 90 degrees Celsius. When they come out of the box, they run through 2 sets of rollers. The first set flexes the rail vertically. The second, horizontally. This flexing process straightens out the rails, which curved slightly due to all that heating, shaping, and cooling. Next, each rail passes over a mirror, enabling inspectors to examine the bottom as well as the top. Finally, a saw cuts the rails to whatever size the railway ordered, most often the standard length of 25 meters. The Quality Control Department measures random samples to make sure all the dimensions are precise. Every rail bears a number identifying the batch of steel from which it came. In the event of a problem, that number lets them trace all the rails made from the same batch. It's a system that ensures a safe, smooth ride.
Not one mention of a curve, track, or the process of creating those tracks to go around the globe. Now we're going to take it down here to Australia, where things should be upside down or right side up whenever you get there. Everything should be upside down there according to the globe. But 300 miles without a single curve. Can't make this stuff up. Now the only thing I know that can travel upside down like that is a roller coaster, and those use these wheels. Do you see any train using wheels like this anywhere? Or is it gravity holding the train to the tracks? But since that's not the case, how do the trains work in Australia?
This month marks 100 years since Australia's east and west were joined for the first time by rail, an incredible engineering feat completed in the midst of World War I.
Now the Trans-Australia Railway is as important as ever, helping shift huge volumes of freight across some of the country's toughest terrain.
The breathtaking beauty of the Nullarbor, harsh, inhospitable, and the heart of the Trans-Australian Railway. Here, trains up to 1.8 kilometres long labour their way across the continent, pulled by powerful 4,000 horsepower engines and guided by drivers who know the line off by heart.
You've always got to sort of know where you are on the track so that you can work out how you're meant to be driving it.
The railway linking Australia's east and west boasts the longest stretch of straight track anywhere in the world. 478 kilometres without a single bend. The figures are staggering, even more so when you consider it was built at the height of World War I.
Without one single bend. Because if it did bend around the globe like it's supposed to, because it's a ball, allegedly, you would have to see this and people would have to live like this. It's not rocket science. There's not one train company that creates tracks that bend around a ball. So if they make flat tracks to go straight forever, turn left and right, that's the only bending that's there is to turn left and right, then is Earth a ball or a flat plane? It's that damn simple, man. There's no fucking science to it. Do we live like this? Have you seen people like this live? Have you seen anything live like this video right here? Now they are laying train tracks. Stop playing. Stay flat.